today I'm going to show you how to get started with your exploding boxes design or your Notan design. That consists of flipping shapes and gluing pieces of paper down. You are required to make two different designs. First is organic. The reason why you need to do organic first is because it's a little bit more forgiving because they're very curvy lines and it will give you some practice. Next, you'll do geometric. The first step is to take one small black square and one large colored square and place your black square in the center of your paper. I chose white paper. What I should do is write my name and grade in the back corner. I'll just write art because I don't have a grade. And place your square in the center. Some people like creating the Notan designs this way, where the sides of the squares are parallel. Other people like turning the square so it looks like a diamond. It's totally up to you what you want to do. I think I'm going to have the diamond shape. So I'm going to keep my paper this way. And step 2 is to lightly trace around the corners of your black square with pencil onto the colored or white paper. I'm going to center it the best I can. All you need to do is either mark the corners like that, so you know where to place your square. I know there are some people who might find it easier to draw a very light line around the edge. You can do that as long as you draw it light enough by barely dragging your pencil across the paper so that you can barely see it, and then you can always erase. That looks good. After that, you are going to draw shapes with your pencil on the black square. The key when you're drawing your shapes, your first large shape, is to make sure your lines begin and end on the same side. You can see I have some examples here. You can see here that the line starts on this edge, does its thing, comes back to the same side. This one, it goes across to the opposite side. This one, it goes down to a side that's adjacent. Those are no-goes. You cannot cut the corners, so you'll eventually get sort of an X shape. So you have to start and end on the same side. What I like to do is I like to start on one of my sides. I'm going to start about a 1/2 inch away from the corner just to keep the corners intact, and I'm just going to draw a random organic shape. Leave the center, don't go too close to the center. And I'm going to stop again about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch away from the corner. I drew my first shape. It might be hard for you to see, but if I tip it in the light, maybe you can see it a little bit better. With the pencil, because it's shiny, it will be no problem seeing the lines and cutting along it. Once you have your line drawn, what you can do then is carefully cut your shape. The key with cutting the shapes is to keep your scissors in front of you and to turn the paper as you slowly close the scissors. I'm just turning the paper all around as I close the scissors. If you don't cut exactly on the line, that's okay. That's why we're doing organic first, is it's very free form and free flowing. I cut my first large shape out, and you can see that if I just turn it this way, it is not symmetrical. This big bump here is actually on the opposite side. So you have to keep in mind, fit it like a puzzle, flip it on the edge, and that's why I like this line drawn, because I can line it up, and the corners should match each other perfectly. What I'm actually going to do is save this piece right here and leave it. And I'm going to cut out all of my biggest shapes first so that I can then glue down the big inside piece. So I'll do my next shape right here. I'm going to leave a space. Don't go too close to your other cut, otherwise it just causes your paper to rip more easily. I'm going to go up to the middle, go in, go out, come down, and I'll cut this one out. Remember to fit it like a puzzle and flip it on its side. So that one goes here. My next one. Fit it like a puzzle, flip it on the edge. Once I cut my last shape, I'll be ready to glue the middle X down. You can see in my last shape I adjusted and I simplified it because it was getting a little bit too complicated to cut. So the great thing you can do now is glue down your middle piece because you won't be cutting anything else out of that. I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper as I'm gluing, and I will flip this over and put glue on the whole piece. Be careful not to rip anything. If you do, don't tape it, just glue it in place where it needs to be once you get to that point. And that should be fine. Get all the little pieces. Make sure you have your scrap paper underneath. And now I'll place this down. Place it and push down the middle first and let the other sides kind of fall where they go. I'm just going to adjust it a little bit so it matches the corners. But don't bend the paper or twist it, just press it down where it falls. That way it will stick where it needs to be. I'll rub, fold my paper in half so I don't get sticky. Having a separate piece of paper over top when you rub the glued part down helps keep things clean. What you'll do next is you can erase smudges and pencil lines, but we'll do that after. The key things to remember is not to cut the corners of your square and cut shapes from all four sides. After you cut your big shapes out, what you'll need to do is before you glue your big shape down, you need to cut and flip at least 2 more times. So you have 3 flips. This is one flip, and the next shape will flip inside the box. So let's see how this will look. Another curvy shape, however you design it to be. And then you can cut that. Once I cut out the shape from my biggest piece, I can glue this one down. Please make sure you double check, fit it, and flip it before you glue it. And then I always have to tell myself, okay, I need to have it stuck down here. So when I go to glue it, I will actually flip it back over and put glue on this side. When you place it down, match the very tips together. This tip here, this tip here, and then press it down with your scrap piece of paper and rub it. I want to cut one more shape out of here. The goal is to have 3 cuts on each side, and your last cut is going to be simple. It doesn't have to be super complicated. I'll glue down my next biggest piece, which fits here. I flip it, and when I glue it, I need to have glue on this side. Now that you have one side done, the next step is to do the same thing on the other 3 sides. A couple things to remember. Save all of your shapes. Keep them in an envelope so you don't lose them. And if you do lose one, you must use a scrap piece of paper to cut the same shape out of. You may not start over. You'll just be able to problem solve and make it work. Work carefully to place your shapes where they belong. Take time to match up the corners so that there's no gaps in between. And always double check to make sure you are gluing the correct side. Every time there's at least one person who glues the wrong side and then has to peel it off and re-glue it, and it doesn't look quite as nice. And when you're done, you will erase your pencil lines so that you don't see anything, and you will write your name and grade on the front of your artwork.